Okay, so picture this, but into a city where money is so useless, basically a toy. Like kids messing around with it, and adults pushing around wheelbarrows full of cash, just trying to find like bread. That's Germany, Weimar Republic. But here's the part makes your brain glitch a little. Same people, nine counts of the cabaret. Like fully dressed up, hair done, outfits, wearing modernist jewelry and looking sharp. It's like the whole city went, yeah, okay, we're gonna collapse, but we're gonna look hot doing it. So the question is, if everybody was that broke, how the hell were they buying jewelry? I'm Sepide and in this video gonna tell you the real secret behind Weimar jewelry, because behind all of that fashion and sparkle was this weird kind of power. And it basically turned jewelry from some luxury thing into honestly a way people literally survived. Stick with me till the end, this part really matters. Alright, wanna understand Weimar fashion, especially jewelry, got to slow down and picture the vibe back then. World War One just ended. German Empire collapses. And out of the ashes, the Weimar Republic is born. But this wasn't some cute, hopeful new era. Honestly, more like society got tossed straight into an economic horror movie. Yes, hyperinflation. Prices were going up so fast. It didn't even feel real. Like you'd wake up and it's one number, and by lunch it's doubled. Unfortunately, money got so worthless. People were literally burning banknotes to hit their homes. Not even being dramatic. But here's the thing, in the middle of that total financial meltdown, one thing still held value. And guess what? Gold. This is where it gets darker. Because the economy got so bad. People, just to stay alive, had to dig into the last safety net. Family jewelry, heirlooms, keepsakes, even broken little scraps of gold. Like imagine it standing outside the shop haggling over the price of your mom's brooch, just so there's a little more food on your table. And yeah, Weimar didn't only collapse financially, something deeper cracked, like the whole collective brain of the society. There's this historian Peter Gay, and he says something that hits hard. Bourgeois culture invests emotions into objects. It may sound fancy, but it's simple. For the middle class, objects weren't just stuff, not just assets, they were emotional containers. Grandpa's watch, wedding ring, silver candlestick, they weren't just valuable, they were full of memory, full of identity. So now imagine having to sell all of it. Feels like handing a piece of yourself to a stranger. And that's why historians say in Weimar, money collapsed first and then people did. Okay, now here's where the story flips. Because right at the exact moment society is getting crushed by poverty and inflation, something totally opposite starts happening. Culture and art start leveling up, like crazy, like fast. Let me put it simply, basically a cultural renaissance. Like Germany turns into a modernism lab. Every day, new ideas, new styles, new bold experiments. So let's walk through Weimar for a second, see what's actually going on. First, let's go to the cinema. The cabinet of Dr. Caligari comes out. Look at the makeup, lightings, shadows. Literally looks like a nightmare. And honestly, kind of exactly what life felt like. And then Metropolis, like a window into the future, like, oh, this is what modern life's gonna be. But wait, when night comes, Berlin's clubs are going off. Jazz music, fast rhythms, people dancing like they don't care, cabaret, bold performances. It's honestly wild. Berlin is pushing every boundary moral, social, traditional, everything. And the most fascinating part the contradiction. It's like society's burning in poverty and crisis, but at the same time, partying. Look, if that's not history being weird, I don't know what it is. So here is a big question. Do you think all that rebellion was only in the streets in cinema, but people's bodies were still stuck in 90s fashion? Nope. Bodies rebelled too. Fashion went modern, and Weimar fashion wasn't just a style, it was survival mechanism. Like this collective subconscious reaction. Like society hit the survival creativity button. And the result? Suddenly, fashion started moving away from the heavy 19th century bourgeois taste and went towards something totally new, urban style. Practical, fast, and bold. And that revolution had a face. Modern, urban woman. She worked, she smoked, cut her hair short, wore clean, simple silhouettes, and most importantly, she was socially present, so naturally had zero interest in giant flashy jewelry. Jewelry had to change too, like it had to. Big, nope. Heavy, nope. Showy, nope. Geometric, yeah. Lightweight, yeah. Urban, absolutely. Let's think about it. Thin linear necklaces, geometric drop earrings, rings made from bakelite or satin finished metal. Jewelry started syncing with modern life. Even icons like Marlene Dietrich wearing slim necklaces and minimal earrings. And honestly, if today it feels totally normal for women to wear a sharp suit, probably owe a little of that to Merlin. She was basically writing the alphabet of modern urban style. And yeah, got a really good video about her Melis. The message was pretty clear. Women's power in Weimar wasn't in the size of their jewelry, but in their independence. And from this point on, adornment stopped being just a sign of wealth anymore, become a statement of modernity. But wait, only half the story. Because there's still a problem. People were broke. And that meant jewelry hit a real crossroads. Path 1. Quiet. Exclusive. Only the rich had a ticket into it. Still buying real gold, custom pieces. But path 2, the path most people were on, couldn't afford gold and precious stones anymore. And this is where the market, like a living creature, adopted fast, understood what people actually needed, and it pulled out a new answer. Costume jewelry, or in German, Modeschmuck, a real revolution. Semi-precious stones became popular. Silver, glass, enamel became trendy. And now something big happens. Jewelry's value stopped being about how many grams of gold it had anymore, or how expensive the stone was. Design became everything. For the first time in modern history, the idea became more valuable than the material. Designers stopped asking what's the most expensive material. Instead, started asking what's the most modern design language? What's the story or idea behind this design? So, what was Weimar's secret weapon? I think timing. Like freakishly perfect timing. Because right then, the whole world was shifting fast. Empires collapsing, economies crashing, societies feeling unstable. And in the middle of all that chaos, people weren't just looking for beauty anymore. They were craving something else, something like order, clarity, structure, something that made life feel under control again. And yeah, globally, Art Deco was rising at the exact moment. But here is the twist. Weimar Germany didn't really go in that glamorous direction, but some were much more radical, much more practical, much more serious. Because in Weimar, design wasn't about sparkle, it was about survival. And that's exactly where a legendary player stepped in, Bauhaus. Not just a school, more like a design revolution. Because Bauhaus flipped the whole idea of beauty upside down. They believed design shouldn't just decorate life, it should organize it, make it clearer, simpler, more functional. They fully embraced one powerful idea: form follows function. Meaning what? Beauty shouldn't exist just to be admired. It should exist to be used, to solve real problems, to serve real life. And once that mindset took over, everything started to change. And even jewelry, which used to be all about luxury and status, suddenly became a design challenge, a question of form, function, structure, and composition. Less about the sparkle, more about purpose. And slowly, that old romantic, overly decorated, ultra ornamental vibe started fading into the background. Because in Weimar Germany, design wasn't trying to escape reality anymore. It was trying to fix it. Now it's time to meet the people who literally built this revolution with their own hands. First name, and honestly, maybe
The weirdest one?
Marion Brandt. Most important female designer at Bauhaus. Basically, the brain behind the Bauhaus metal workshop. But the best part of her story gets even more interesting than you'd expect. Because Bauhaus, despite all its modern tech, had this unspoken rule: women go weave fabric. And Brandt was like, nope. Walked straight into the coolest, most masculine part of the school: metal. First woman to enter the metal workshop. And a few years later, she took it over. 1928 became the head of the workshop. And now you're ready for the weirdest part. Her jewelry didn't even look like jewelry. The photo was created for a metallic festival held at the Bauhaus. Brandt used the self-portrait to represent the new woman, independent, intellectual, and comfortable in a male-dominated technical field. The jewelry Brandt wears here is not traditional, but rather adorned with metal geometric pieces of her own designs. It's created in the Bauhaus metal workshop. It strongly symbolizes the Bauhaus ideology of creating functional industrial art. But hold on, this was only the beginning, because the next person I'm about to show you didn't just remove gold from jewelry. He removed emotion too. Noam Slutsky. This guy wasn't even making jewelry. Honestly, basically making industrial components and calling it jewelry, like literally. Slutsky was an engineer, not just an artist. Before Bauhaus, he worked in industrial workshops, and you could see the background in every line of his work. Obsessed with this famous modernist quote: ornament is crime, decoration is a crime. So the result? His pieces didn't look like adornment, looked like tools, perfectly flat surfaces, hard forms, sharp angles, sometimes even rough. Like, instead of wearing a necklace, you're wearing a piece of futuristic machine around your neck. But Weimar wasn't completely cold and dead inside yet, because there was still one person who let color and ornament breathe inside jewelry. Like, he built a bridge between tradition and modernity. And that person was Theodor Farner. He proved you could still have decoration without turning into aristocratic, messy, over the top vibes. He worked mostly with silver and enamel, and his brand became one of the most famous Art Deco jewelry producers in Europe. His work had color, had a trace of tradition, but don't worry, everything was controlled, measured, balanced. Not chaotic, not loud, it was modern but more human than the others. And do you know who finest jewelry was perfect for? Urban middle class. I mean, real people, the exact class building Weimar's new identity. So, in the end, here is the real truth about Weimar. Jewelry wasn't just beautiful, it was reaction. Reaction to inflation, to the collapse of the middle class, to a city falling apart more and more every day. When the future feels unknown, people have two choices: either give up or, out of stubbornness, decide to live beautifully anyway. And Weimar did exactly that. That's why jewelry moved away from gold and precious stones and went toward new ideas and materials: industrial metals, glass, bakelite, cleaner lines, stronger geometry, Art Deco, Bauhaus. And when you look at Brandt or Slutsky or Farner, you realize these weren't just designers. They were designing the shape of survival for a whole generation, watching their world fall apart. And now, gotta ask you something. Ever had a moment in your life where everything fell apart, but somehow in that exact moment, the best version of you came out? Drop a comment. I wanna hear what you think. And if your answer is yeah, then you genuinely get what Weimar felt like. And if this trip through Weimar fashion and jewelry was interesting to you, subscribe, like the video because this is just the beginning. And seriously, thanks for being here, sticking around. That actually means a lot.